I just thought that was the most, like, ridiculous, like, to even have the gall to, like, write that email and, like, feel like you were...
I mean, it took her quite some time to write that out,
She
too.
talked about everything she liked and disliked and all the things, like, what? Good gravy. No. Hard no.
And what about the other 2 dogs? Do they enjoy
She said they're
the
doing fine from the back and forth.
fenced-in yard?
Yes, they're poodles. Ugh.
Whatever.
Oh my dog. Dog. Oh my dog.
Oh my dog, hey!
Oh, my dog, hello.
It's your favorite rescuers and sleuths.
Mm-hmm.
We're back.
I'm dusting off my
You can run, but you can't hide.
shoulders.
Yep, we're very sneaky. So anyway, we are coming off our last podcast where we talked. If you haven't listened to it, you should definitely tune in. It's the tale of a dumped dog and how 2 very persistent rescuers, that's us, found out where she came from. So that was fun to be able to put that all together in one spot so we can remember the story.
I love
'Cause
tracking
it's so
people down.
crazy.
Yeah, 40 years from now when we're listening to this on a beach in Mexico, it's going to be...
Well, it's funny because, like, I remember, like, as a kid, my parents would, like, get together with their siblings and stuff, and they would tell these stories, and they were trying to remember stuff from their child, and they're like, no, that's not how it went, this is how it went, and this is how that went. It's like, well, no. Let's listen to the podcast from 30 years ago, and we'll remember how it went, and it's a good story.
Well, my memory is so bad, I'm going to listen to it 30 days from now. So.
Actually, the time it comes out, I'm going to be refreshed, be like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's just because we got so much coming at us, which, by the way, I just had, like, a dumb moment a couple of days ago. We were talking to a volunteer, and she goes, hey, you know that person that applied for the dog that we have was interested in the dog you have. Did you ever reach out to them? I was like, no one ever told me that. They did. It was her, and it
scrolled like
I scrolled like a half a scroll, and it was her saying, like, hey, the person who applied for my dog is interested in the one that you have. And I said, great, I'll reach out to them tomorrow. So I acknowledged that I saw it. And then days later, I was like, that never happened. I don't know what you're talking about. That's the kind of last couple weeks it's been. It's just been rapid fire, like needing to answer and solve and think about and put together. And we're fried.
Just as a reminder, we're just 2 gals taking on the world one dog at a time. And we both have very real lives that require our attention elsewhere. And, you know, mental health is important. And
sometimes your brain just blocks things
well-being.
out.
Yeah, you know,
nothing. I felt so bad because she was like, "Yeah, you do have an applicant for that dog. I literally just told you about it," and I was like, "No, you didn't."
Yeah. Well, sometimes it can feel like, in those instances, like we don't have our shit together, which sometimes
we mostly really do.
We mostly actually really do. Much more. I mean, if you've seen other situations, you'd think we're top of the line. But
so the occasional blackout, I guess we're forgiven. But anyway, just a reminder that we're human beings and we're not perfect, but we're getting there.
I always try to remember that when the bat phone rings, because like the person that's calling, even though they may very well deserve it, they don't know that I've been dealing with 8 million other disasters that day. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they're just calling. It's more so when they call for things that are very clear on our website or very clear on our Facebook page, like how to do things. Like,
well, also
all of our available dogs are on our website under check out our available dogs here.
The voicemail
top
to
thing
the
that
bat
comes
phone.
up.
The voicemail to the bat phone says this line is not monitored. Like, it's for emergencies only. If you have any other need, here's where you go.
Right.
And then they'll still leave a voicemail saying, I saw that Pomeranian on your website and I want to know how to apply for it. Like, get out of my life. Yeah. I can't. You're using brain cells that I could otherwise use to remember important stuff.
But yeah, I had a call today. This lady was looking for a dog for her mother. I finally just had to ask. Like, I don't know. Can we legally? Does it matter? I don't know. Can we legally ask how old they are? I mean, I come from an HR world, so I'm like, you can't ask those things.
We
but
can
I finally just
discriminate
did.
all we want.
And I was like, she's like,
I mean,
well, she's 85, and I'm thinking, Jesus, okay, we need like a death doorstep dog. Do we have any of those?
Well, actually, so Sissy died, that little poodle, and so now I have this like 92-year-old woman who's spry and with it, and she's like, I want another dog, and so I'm like, okay, who do I have that has 2 years left or something like that?
Right.
Like, just keep matching this up until it works out.
I mean, we really are matchmakers.
We really are.
I mean,
I'm pretty good at that part of it, I think.
The only one that we had that, of course, the older small dogs that we have aggression. Like, let's send her Pan. Okay.
Yeah. No.
Somebody
She's asked me
bleed
that
out on day 2.
Which, by the way, we're going to be having an adoption event at Paws and Pints. I don't know how many dogs we're going to have there, but I wanted to host it in case we had some of these puppies left. So,
yeah.
But it's going to be, I believe, on the next. Well, it will have already happened by the time this comes out. So hopefully, but anyway, somebody
join us at our next one.
Yeah. So somebody asked me, "Oh, are you going to bring Pan? He looks really cute," and I said, "No." He's mean.
Pan, he is spicy.
Yeah.
He's on some meds. We're getting that figured out.
Working on it, but
he needs some therapy. But he came from such a shit show.
Really bad situation.
I mean, freaking Southeast side English as a second language.
Which neither here nor there, but it was a bad.
I'm not judging. I'm painting a picture.
Oh, all right. Well, that doesn't matter.
You put 2 and 2 together.
Well, it was a pit bull chihuahua that was born on their
started there.
That's all you need to know. Yeah.
Speaking of idiots, inbox.
Well, first of all, we haven't had a lot in the P.O. box lately, so remember to send us some postcards because we've been
last
waiting.
week it was empty. I didn't check it today because I was still upset about it being empty last week. So.
So when she goes back, I hope there's something there. But we did get...
The post office box, though, can be checked 24/7. So after I leave here, I could go check it.
You could. And then you'll have to tell me if there's something in there, and we'll have to remember for next time.
I'm so excited.
But we do have an email box that isn't always filled with shit. Sometimes it's filled with fun messages from our friend Morgan in Wisconsin.
Oh, lordy, Morgan. Girl... I wish I had your kind of time.
It's like her brain.
No. I think it's natural for her.
I think she just sits down to write an email, and it's just this magical like string of sentences that all are hysterical and clever and beyond what we can do.
Yeah, you gotta have some time on your hands. You can't be reading this going down the road.
No, I've tried to read it 3 or 4 times because it's like I'm missing stuff because there's so many like little clever nuances within this email. So rather than read it to you, I will say that she was basically sending the email because of how many coincidences the stuff that we're saying has on her life. And so she's had some dogs or knew some dogs.
And she's a bingo caller.
She does bingo, which I don't doubt.
Kindred spirits.
Hilarious bingo caller. But she called out a couple of dogs that we mentioned in our episode when we were talking about our friend Chris. Momo is one of my daughter's Chihuahua, who's like 12 or 13 years old now. She said, "Did you say you had a dog named Momo?" Because, she had one too. So I do have a little Momo. He is an absolute gremlin and barks at every single person except for me and Cam. He's awful, but he's still with us. And then she also mentioned a Kizzy, which is funny because I think...
I remember the dog, but I don't remember the circumstances.
Yeah, it was from Gwen.
That's it.
So I went...
Freaking Gwen.
So Gwen was this... If she's still alive, she's 120 years old, but she was a Pomeranian breeder outside of Indianola who lived in absolute squalor and had stacks of cages on cages of cages inside her home that she was living in, filled with Pomeranians. And I had the opportunity to go out there and pick up a few dogs. And when I was there, I saw this little dog that literally was just laying on its side. Its legs didn't work. They were both like, all 4 of them were like kind of curled up and like they couldn't work and she couldn't really move around. Mm-hmm. And she had no teeth. Her tongue was hanging out. But her little face was absolutely darling. But she was just laying in her own pee and poop in this cage. And the first
Do
time...
I remember her? Did she kind of look like
She looked...
Stitch? Did she kind of look like Stitch?
She was really tiny, a little tiny Pomeranian. But here we go.
I seem to remember her looking kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I said her, look at her sitting in the box looking out. So anyway, the first time we went there, she would not give her to us. And I'm telling you, her legs looked like a pretzel in front. They were like crisscrossed and all like weird. And I went back the second time and I brought my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And he is not really a charmer, I wouldn't say. He's a man of few words. But for some reason, Gwen was like, whatever he says is fine. So I looked at it. And I looked at Kizzy and I was like, I want this dog out of here. And
maybe we should put him to work a little more often.
Maybe. But anyhow, I was pushing and pushing because I really wanted to get this dog. And she goes, well, she's one of my favorites. And I was like, she's laying on her side in her own pee and poop and she can't move. So I think we should probably send her with me. So anyway, finally, my very, I guess, charming husband talked her into letting us take her home. And because she couldn't sit upright because all of her legs were kind of pretzeled, he immediately that night made her this little wooden box that we called Kizzy's Cubby. And we padded it with pillows and blankets, and she could sit upright, and we put a puppy pad underneath of her so she could sit upright, she could eat and drink. She was so happy, and we would take her walking around everywhere. Now, she didn't walk. We walked her around. And you could take her outside and kind of sit her up in the grass and sort of hold her. And she actually was pretty pleasant and seemed to be pretty happy after we did that. And then we moved her to another foster. She ended up getting adopted through Fluffy Butts and lived, not super long after that, but lived a nice life where she was loved and not laying in her own excrement. So that was our Kizzy, and she was pretty special. And I have videos and pictures of her. She loved to eat. Of her eating. So yeah, here's the day when we brought her home.
Yep.
He had a mustache then. I hate that mustache. But it worked on that lady.
She's not dead.
No, Gwen's not dead.
No.
Kizzy's dead now. But yeah, I just can't look. This is like her and her first Christmas. They had her propped up in her little bubble butt bed. She lived a really nice life after she got adopted, and she got a lot stronger where she could kind of sit up more on her own, and she got spicy, and she was a cool little dog. So I appreciated her calling out that we had said the name Kizzy because I hadn't talked about her in a while.
Yeah, I'd kind of forgotten about her.
Yeah, but that was it was a good rescue, and it took me 2 times of going there and a husband with a mustache to get her out the door. So anyway, and then not so pleasant part of our inbox, and it's not even like that bad of an email, but it was just so freaking stupid that I feel the need to read this to you. And you all know how terrible I am at like reading aloud, so we're going to do our best. But I received this email, and then I immediately responded, and then I sent a message to Holly that said...
There were cocktails involved.
I said, I did the thing where I responded to the email before I thought about that I responded to the email, and like, could you read it and make sure it wasn't too spicy?
And then take the keyboard away from me.
And then take the keyboard away from me because...
And I thought you were talking about another email that we had gotten earlier in the day, and I read your response, and it was totally fine. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. That was... fine. What's the problem? And you're like, no,
the other one.
The one about that. And I'm like, oh shit, hang on. So I go and read that. I'm like, oh girl, yes, snap, handled perfectly.
Okay, so it's kind of a long email that we got in, but you have to hear it all to just, I hope, understand. Like,
it was one of those that started off okay, and the further you got into it, you're like,
dumber
oh,
and
hell
dumber and
no.
dumber. It's like, I am not going to help you. Okay, in our inbox. Hi, we have a 9-year-old female German Shepherd, which, by the way, they're really hard to find home for.
No shit.
Her name is...
Anja.
Anja. Thank you. I didn't know how to say that. I think that's right. We have had her since she was a puppy. So she's 9 years old. She's very sweet, very gentle. We lived on 5 acres, which she loved. I walked with her every day on our acreage. She loved exploring with me. When grandchildren began arriving in the Des Moines and Quad Cities areas, we were traveling back and forth for 6 years. After 6 years, we decided to sell our acreage and bought a small ranch home in Urbandale with a small fenced yard, and also bought a small townhouse. So they have enough money to split it up and just buy 2 separate houses.
Right.
There's that. No fenced yard in the Quad Cities, so as to have our own small space near our grandchildren and our children and all of our families at each location. We also have 2 young toy poodles who are doing well living at each place. Anja, however, is not happy when we are at our Hampton townhouse. We take them for walks, but she misses our home in our fenced yard in Urbandale. Okay. She always looks very sad when we are at our Hampton townhouse. It becomes depressed. When we go back to our Urbandale home with a fenced yard, she is much happier. Is there someone who can help her? We feel so bad for her. We go back and forth regularly to be with our families. We are concerned for her since she is so unhappy at times. She likes anyone who genuinely likes her. She can be, I don't even know what that means. She can be shy at first until she gets to know a person. She is completely house trained. She likes to be outside in a fenced yard. I'm going to pause here to say something. Dogs do not feel the same emotions in the way that humans feel them. So you're saying that your dog looks sad. So that's why
you're projecting your own guilt into an emotion within a dog that can't validate that.
Correct.
Right.
There we go. That's our note. The email continues. She is used to an invisible fence from our 5 acres. She also loves to be inside also. She is crate trained and likes her crate. She loves to go for walks, but yet she's unhappy at the house where she can only go for walks. That's my side note. She likes attention and petting and talking to her. She even likes to be petted when she is eating and drinking. She is a talker and will talk to us when she is happy. She would be an ideal quiet companion for someone in their home who has a fenced yard. Her dog doesn't care about the fenced yard. She likes some dogs that she knows, but is scared of other dogs sometimes.
I feel like she's just trying to check any freaking box possible.
Yeah. She loves car rides. She does have some health issues. She has a lickoma, which isn't even a thing. It's a licrangioma. It's like a wound. I know what she's talking about when your dog obsessively licks in a certain spot. On her
Common for German Shepherds, by the way.
Yes. On her right back leg, which we are always watching and sometimes needs an antibiotic. Her left back leg is weak from cartilage embolism type thing. She takes a quarter tablet of prednisone daily in Easy Cheese. Like,
quarter tablet on a German Shepherd
is nothing.
Nothing.
I can't imagine it's doing anything.
And Easy Cheese? No. Okay. Go on.
The prednisone has helped to reduce the inflammation, and she can use her left leg much better. She does still drag it a little at times. So again, you're talking about a dog at the end of its life stages.
A 9-year-old German Shepherd.
That's having trouble moving around. And you're going to rehome it because you think it looks sad because one of your 2 homes does not have a fenced yard? I'll continue to read now.
Life expectancy for a German Shepherd, by the way, 9 to 13 years.
Yeah, they got like a year left. Calm down, people. She does need help getting in and out of the car because of her weak back leg. Sometimes she falls when she's trying to get in, even with help. She is very determined and manages to get in on the second try. She does better when we put her in a harness since we can assist her by holding on to it. We take her to Beaverdale Veterinary. She's up to date with all of her shots. We take her for baths and grooming at whatever, and she is used to having pet sitters come into our home. She is very sweet. We just want her to be happy. Can anyone help us?
This is right up there with dumping a dog. Like, how do you do that?
This is
after 9
diabolical
years.
to me.
9 years.
Freaking awful.
I don't. That'd be like me giving up Dallas right now.
Yeah.
That's literally the same thing. I've had Dallas. Well, I've had him for 11 years now.
Mm-hmm.
He's been part of my life, and he is a very old German Shepherd. He's 12.
Yeah.
He's on Vetprofen every day. And, he looks sad when I leave, and then he doesn't.
Then
he's
he doesn't
fine.
when I come back
He
home.
doesn't look sad when I leave.
No, he doesn't.
I think he looks sad because I feel guilty leaving.
Yeah.
That's not what he doesn't.
He's fine.
He doesn't know if I'm leaving for half an hour or 10 days.
Yeah.
He has no idea.
No.
Anyway, go
No
on.
passage of time. So anyway.
But he has all the same shit that this dog does.
Exact.
He is on Vetprofen every day. He has weakness in his hind leg. He has leucoma. All of this.
Yeah.
Everything.
But
except he doesn't have 2 homes. One of them in the Hamptons. Get the fuck out of here.
So, anyway, here is my response. We just said what all I really wanted to say, but here's my response.
Oh, yeah. No, this is perfect.
Hi there.
Which, if you know Care at all, that is a keyword for buckle in.
Buckle up. Here we go. At this time, we are over full. There is a nationwide crisis of dogs needing rescue, and we have several requests to take large breed dogs with no available fosters. At this time, the best place for her is with you. Seeing a dog looking sad is a human emotion we place on them. Dogs are resilient creatures. A dog of this age should be allowed to live their life with the family who made the commitment to them as a puppy.
Mic drop right there.
Bouncing her around to new fosters and new owners, noting this breed and age of dog is very tough placement. We have an 8-year-old German Shepherd who has been with us for nearly 6 months. Is much more traumatizing than her having a change of scenery at home with her people. Enjoy her, and best wishes to you all. Get the fluff out of my inbox.
I loved it. I loved every bit of it. I forget where I was. I think I was at bowling, and that you sent that and Mom and Dad, and so I read it to them. Hilarious. Perfect. Spot on. The best thing, though, I mean, a dog of this age should be allowed to live their life with the family who made the commitment to them as a puppy. Essentially, asshats, see her through.
Suck it up for 1 more year. This dog does not have much longer.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if she has 3 years or 5 years or
it's your
6
deal.
months. This is your dog.
Yeah.
And we don't have... What are you doing? Where do you think she's going to end up that's better than with you?
A fenced yard. It's really important to her, as you can tell by her human emotions she's portraying.
And how many days a week are you somewhere where she doesn't have a fence yard? Like, what's the ratio?
Or can't you take her to a
Not
dog
that it
park
matters,
a couple days a
but-
week if she likes to walk around in the fenced yard? Like, what? And she's not running and playing. She's 9 years old and she can barely get into a car. It's not like she needs to run off energy.
This is really frustrating. And so when you stack this kind of shit up to, I don't know, the daily email that we get with euthanasia lists saying, hey, if nobody tags this dog in the next 3 hours, it's going to literally die. Literally die. And you're coming at me saying your dog's not happy in its second home. I cannot. I'm done. We're done. I'm done for the day. I'm going home.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the kind of crap that comes into our inbox, and we respond as more often probably than most rescues are able to, just because I'm in front of the computer a lot. But
I'm glad you are, and I'm not, because I'm not sure that would have went as well as it did.
The fact that I even took time to respond to that message, I hope was worth my time, because I hope she got her druthers and was like, oh yeah, you're right. However, she didn't respond. It's probably, who knows.
I would kind of like to follow up with her and see what
I know.
happened.
I know. Well,
Dang
I
it.
don't want to know, but I also do. You know what I mean?
So anyway, if you're considering rehoming your pet because you think it's sad and it deserves more, then do more.
Yeah.
Then do more. If you committed to taking a dog on, to adopting a dog into your family, it is now your responsibility to see that dog through. And you should think about that the next time you're thinking about getting another dog. I'm going to get off my soapbox now.
Well, I know.
And tell all your friends, and tell all your family, and tell your whoever that's asking you for help rehoming their dog.
Yeah. My lands. I just thought that was the most, ridiculous, to even have the gall to, write that email and, feel like you were...
I mean, it took her quite some time to write that out,
She
too.
talked about everything she liked and disliked, and all the things, what? Good gravy. No. Hard no.
And what about the other 2 dogs? Do they enjoy
She said they're
The
doing fine from the back and
fenced
forth.
in yard?
Yes, they're poodles. Ugh.
Whatever.
Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of been the ins and outs
Well,
and overflow of...
And we talked about this about our 2025 goals too, because the ratio to owner surrenders versus shelter or youthless pulls was a little too far skewed for my liking.
Yeah.
And so, you know what? We're pushing back, and we're providing. We're not just saying no. We're providing resources at the same time. So, if we get calls of people that can't afford vet care, let's help them out. Let's get them up to date on shots. Let's get them,
Sure.
whatever. I would rather spend, $75 helping somebody out, getting their shots up to date so they can stay in their apartment wherever they're at, than to have the dog be surrendered.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
But no, you need a trainer. You need set up with that. More than happy to make a referral.
Yep.
But we're not doing this anymore. Not in 2025.
And oddly enough, all of our owner surrenders so far in 25, I believe, have been deaths of owners. So that's
understandable. We're going to talk about that
what
too.
we're going to talk about today. So deaths of owners, and then also when it's time to...
Deaths of your dog.
Yeah, let your dog go. So I guess let's talk a little bit about that. You and I have both... I have lots of dogs, and so therefore equates to lots of death, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm gonna have to see a lot of my dogs leave me. And so being able to know when to say it's time.
It's time. Yeah.
And I tell people this all the time. I get this email, question, text constantly. Hey, my dog is XYZ. How do I know when it's time to let them go? And they're just asking me because I live in dog land all the time. By no means a medical professional, but what I tell them is, you'll know when it's time, and we'll talk about a few signals for that. But also, I like to say that it's the best last gift that we can give our best friend is to let them pass with dignity and not have to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do that for human beings outside of in the state of Oregon, I believe. So
that's bullshit too.
Yeah, I know. But the fact that we are able to make that call for some creature that has dedicated their life to loving us, is a pretty special gift to be able to give. But when do you make that call?
So the more that we go through this and the more that we see this, you and I, we both have quite a few dogs, and we've had to, put down a few dogs. We've also had to put a couple dogs down in rescue that came in not well to begin with. We had the parvo puppies, we had Crackerjack, whatnot. So for me, it's important for me to set parameters ahead of time. So Dallas, again, he's a 12-year-old German Shepherd. Right now he's doing fine. He's keeping weight on. His hips are good. He's on all the things. Taking care of him great. So that's when I need to set those parameters now. And I've told myself when he gets to the point that he cannot go out and potty by himself,
it's the mobility for me
then
usually.
That's it for me, because it's not the inconvenience factor for me. It's the dignity factor for him.
Yeah, he's in pain and he's struggling if that's where he's at.
Yeah, if he can't go out and relieve himself on his own, I
day to day isn't very fun either.
That quality of life is
gone,
degrading rapidly. And I've always said as well, I would rather be 30 days too soon than 3 days too late.
Yep.
Because inevitably it's going to happen over a weekend. They're going to tank, and you're going to be stuck with a dog in pain and not be able to do anything without taking them to emergency vet services.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, sometimes dogs will pass on their own, and it's not like a long thing, but it seems to me like most of the times I've had a lot of signs before I've made the call. At one point I had 2 dogs who were both very senior dogs who were very bonded, and both of them, oddly enough, went downhill kind of on the same slope. And so I kept really struggling because one of the dogs was a dog that I had had since before I gave birth to my daughter. He had been with me for a really long time. And the other one that I adopted as a senior dog, but they had kind of become best friends. So together they were kind of going downhill, and I'm like, oh, gosh, I should really take her in, and I should really take him in. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know. And they really started to go downhill quickly, and I thought, okay, I can't put this off anymore. This is really bad. They're near end stages of life. Both of them were getting very thin. A lot of times, like their back ends will get really thin, and they'll kind of start to atrophy a little bit in their limbs and stuff when they start having trouble getting around. And that was a big sign that I had for both of them, oddly enough. And so I made an appointment for them to actually be euthanized together on the same day. Of course, one of them was a Chihuahua, and that bitch died in her sleep the night before I was going to take him in.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to take her into the vet that morning and drop her off. And then that afternoon, I took Thumper and had him put to sleep, and then they were cremated together. But
yeah.
It's always that line of like, am I waiting too long? And you're exactly right. Like when you start realizing that it's not your same dog anymore and they're not enjoying their life anymore, then there's nothing wrong with giving that last gift to them.
And you want them to enjoy their last day, days, week, whatever it is. And so preemptively, you can do that while they're still, air quote, relatively feeling good.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that when they are so lethargic and haven't ate in days and haven't drank in days, and they have no energy to even try to eat a last meal.
If you're
type
like
thing.
syringe feeding them water to try and keep them alive, like that's too long. You're waiting
they're
too
suffering.
long. Yeah.
And that it's okay to make that call. In regards to making that call, talk to your vet ahead of time. Ask them what their services are. Some vets will do in-home euthanasia. I personally, that's the only way I will do it, is at home, in my home, in their home, where they are comfortable. And,
if you have a solid relationship with your vet, that's something you can talk to them about early and just say, hey, I know it's not probably something you regularly do, but when it comes time, would it be okay if I asked you to do that? And they'll either say yes or they'll say no, and then you can look for a service that does this.
And there are services in the Des Moines area, I know.
Yes.
I'm not sure what their radius is, but it's also something that you want to budget for because it's not
cheap.
It's not cheap. It's not. How do you stack it up? But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're looking at several $100s, but that also includes them taking the body with them and having it cremated, having it put into an urn. It's usually a box, a hand-carved wooden box, them returning the ashes to you, all of it, So, take that into consideration too. If you want to bury your pet, if you have a plot at a pet cemetery.
Yeah, by the way, burying your pet within city limits is actually not legal. So if you're out in the country and you own your property, that's a different story. But they do, like you say, have pet cemeteries that you can choose a plot for your pets. I was at a craft show and I was walking along and there was like a ceramics or a pottery lady and there was this like beautiful like pink urn and I'm like, that is where all of my dogs are going to go when they die. So I bought it. It was expensive and I was like, nope, this is it. I'm going to buy this. So I bought it. I put it on my shelf and there's probably 6 or 8 dogs in there at this point. But when they bring them back, I take the ashes out of whatever receptacle they send them in and I put them in there. So just so you all know, when I die, all of those dogs are coming with me. You need to send me with my pink urn of all my dogs.
Do you want cremated or do you want intact?
Cremated.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not good.
I want decomposed.
I want to be decomposed too, but I want my dogs to come with me, so throw us all in the pile.
Well, they can scatter that in the dirt.
I guess.
Like an added
I wanted to be in
nitrate.
the body farm.
Okay.
Where they like test on you and like so they can learn about like decomposition and like solve crimes later and stuff like that.
Okay.
But apparently there's only so many people that they can like use for like testing for that. So I guess fire me up, put my dogs in with me.
Fire me up.
Yeah,
Do you want them spread or do you want them kept?
Oh no, this is a very specific
spread
wish.
at the dog park?
No,
Oh,
well,
okay.
maybe a little, like a couple of them. But here's the deal: I want to be a burden for people for the rest of their days. So I want to be inside an urn that my family then has to have with them until they die.
Oh, Jesus.
It's just
Some people feel very passionately about this topic, and I'm just here to say, to each their own.
yeah, it doesn't matter when you're gone, but I think my family all knows my stance on wanting to be a burden forever.
Well, some people are very, like, they all have to stay together, and I'm like, why? Like, like with Aaron's ashes, we wanted to go see all the national parks. I have spread his ashes at so many national parks.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
And that's completely illegal as well. So, but what are they going to do?
Yeah.
Maybe go out and sweep up his ashes? Like, he's going to see all the national parks one way or another.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Oh, you could sprinkle me around, turn me into a pair of earrings. I don't care. But people are really thoughtful about that, and I do know, I mean, like when Chris died, they were like, we got to find the ashes of her pups because they knew that she wanted to be buried with them, and I feel the same way. I want to be put back together with my family. Yeah.
Well, I've kept all the dogs that I've had, all their ashes separate, but I mean, they're all together on the same shelf, but they're
oh no,
I
couldn't keep doing that. It would be a brick wall by the time I died.
I do have 2 dogs buried at my parents' house. But I did that because I was like, well, what if I ever move? Like, I know my parents are never going to move, so
yeah,
there's that. But I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, again, we talk about this all the time, but thinking about what you want to happen if you die. And so,
oh, yeah.
We have
a plan. We have talked about this before.
Yeah, we have a lot. But I think it's just so important. Even if your plan is that you've reached out to a rescue and said, hey, can I put you in my will for if something happens to me that you'll take care of Fluffy? Like, even just doing that is something.
Included in your written out wishes.
That are notarized.
Which, this is twofold. One, you will sleep better at night knowing that it's taken care of. Mm-hmm. But 2, it relieves the guilt from your family after you die on what to do with Fluffy.
Yeah.
Because, well, depending on how well liked you are, I don't know. I mean, they're going to feel some amount of guilt that they should keep the dog or not. Mm-hmm. And then what are they going to do with the dog?
Yeah. Well, and even like your friends and family who know and love the dog, like all of my crazy misfits at the dog park, we have a whole plan about all of our dogs.
Oh gosh.
So like if, I have a friend that has 2 Bernese Mountain Dogs and she knows that I don't want them, but she is then delegated and said, okay, well, our other friend, if I pass away, my dogs are going to go to her. But if she can't take them for any reason, then they're going to go to Oh My Dog and Carol will handle it. And I know she'll make them go to a good place.
Right.
So like they have all had these conversations with multiple people and we all know like what the wishes are and getting that written down and like in a real place, like it's a big deal. That's our family. That's our kids to us, anyway.
Which, speaking of, do you want to talk about Hippo?
Yes. Yeah. So, I'm not going to get into super detail right now, but I did have to, we had a dog that I lightly have touched on that has been essentially returned to rescue. She's been with me for a few weeks now. She was originally my foster. And her dad, who I care about very much, is really sick. And so he can't care for her anymore. And he had asked when he realized that things were kind of bad, if when it got worse, that I would take care of her and find her a home. And so that's what we're working on doing, and she's with me. And I'm not in a huge rush to find her a home because he's still with us and he is doing fine and everything's okay. But like for him to have the wherewithal to say like, hey, I know I'm going to go through a lot and I really need to make sure that this dog that I love and that I adopted from you is going to be okay. Will you help me? So Hippo is a really beautiful, robust lady.
She's like a silver blue.
She's beautiful. She's silver blue. She's heavy.
She's thick.
Thick
with
girl.
3 C's.
Yes, 3 C's. She's low to the ground. She's scruffle. She loves to wrestle and play with Tot, our other pit bull. She also plays great with Dolores, our pug. Like, she does really good. Does fine with cats. She is a lot of dog who makes her choice whether or not she likes something, and then she sticks with it. So there's certain things that she doesn't like. She does not like Great Danes.
Hey,
Okay.
same.
I
like them as other people's pets.
Yeah, I like to look at them. I wouldn't want one in my house, but anyway, she had lived with a Great Dane previously who was not very nice to her, and so she's kind of got that picked out. But anyway,
girl that holds a grudge, gotta love that.
Oh yeah, we like it. So she's gonna be picky about where she lands if there's other dogs. But she's been living with my entire pack completely, no problems. I haven't had to separate her or anything like that. She walked right back into my house like she'd been there forever. She is incredible and loves to go on walks, loves to snuggle in bed, She likes to be as close to you as possible. But anyway, just making a plan when even if we always think of death as being sudden, but sometimes it's not. And that it's coming. And being able to make that plan even in that moment is okay. Mm-hmm. So,
when I'm preparing for that time, for that day, I just usually schedule it, a few days out.
For if the dog's going to die, not you.
I'm
right?
Sorry, yes. Sorry. Switching gears.
Yeah, back to our dog euthanasia. Yeah, think about it because, and I found an article.
I prefer to schedule those out a few days
it'd be
too.
nice. Let me know when I'm going to die. Don't let me die on a Monday.
No, the countdown for me is what's always the killer, but just doing things with them, making sure they're comfortable. Heating pads are wonderful. I mean, those are wonderful anytime, but especially when they're low on the older side, low to the ground, low body mass. It's just a comfort for them. Favorite meals, treats.
If they like to go on a car ride, take them on a car ride. If they like to, go lay in the grass, go lay in the grass with them.
See, and everybody always does like the cheeseburger thing, and that's cool. Like, to each their own, no judgment. Great, go do it. But like, Stanley's never had a cheeseburger. Like, he's never had a McDonald's. Like, I would never. It just is not something. So I don't think that's something I would do with him. Like, I would feed him this little fishy, crunchy fish, crispy fish, and his beaver paws, and take him to the pond or something.
Yeah.
But
one thing I have seen people do, which I don't know if I'd ever get through without looking like a freaking mess, but having a photo shoot with your dog, like on their last days, it's kind of beautiful to get to see like a wonderful photo of your dog, like with their silver hair, but to have me in the photo, oh no, I'll be a blubbering mess. But if you can get somebody to come take a really nice picture, if they're still looking good.
Well, and to that end, it's been within the last year. You had a kid pass, and I showed up, and it was, I didn't want to encroach on your experience, but I wanted you to have something.
Oh, yeah,
to remember it by.
Yeah,
and so I was taking pictures, and I was trying to be.
Well, and I think, first of all,
not like, hey, here, smile here, like just quietly in the background. If you have a good friend or a family member that can come be with you, that you're comfortable with them being with you,
do that so that they can.
If you could snap, if you are that person for them, if you could snap a few pictures, inconspicuously.
So Holly did that for me once.
You did that for me, and a week later.
Yeah, we were really close.
We're twins.
Those two died really close together, and then another time I had. Chupacabra got really sick really fast, and I had to put him down at the emergency vet, and I didn't have any idea that was coming that morning. Like, he just was completely comatose and gone almost. They thought he was dead when I brought him in,
Oh, gosh.
And Courtney came to the emergency vet and sat with me and was there. And, my husband has been with us one time when we had to let his dog go. But I've asked before, like, do you want to go with when this happens? And he always says no.
Yeah.
But, like, to me, like, at least if you can feel strong enough to be there with your partner or your friend when you have to let your dog go. I think that's a really special gift to give to them, to like have that support there. So,
But don't ever leave the room.
no. Don't drop the dog off
Don't
to
do
be
that.
euthanized. Don't leave the room.
Don't do
them.
that. I will judge on that.
Yeah.
I will 100% judge you on that.
Yeah, you need to stay with your dog. Even our old farm dogs. I remember we had one that my mom went to take in, and I remember vividly she came home and she was upset, and she never really was emotional one way or another, but she was upset, and she said that when he went, that the vet had her hold him because he was upset and didn't want to have like the IV or whatever, and that to me at the moment I was like, oh gosh, that's awful, but now I think like that was such a huge gift to give him, and I can't imagine letting a dog go unless I'm holding him, you know.
Also, for me, I have to witness it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you remember that movie Inception where they have the trinket that's their like reality check?
Yeah, so they remember what's real. Yeah.
It's not so that you remember, it's so that you know what's real.
Yeah, right.
Like if
right.
it tumbles, then you know you're in reality. If it doesn't, then you know that you're not.
Right.
So like with death, for me, even with people, I have to have a picture of the dead body. Which sounds
no, it doesn't, because
terrible,
people have been doing that for years. I actually have, and this sounds terrible, but I used to be kind of an antique dealer on the side, and I have sort of a collection of exactly that. It's photos that people took of their loved ones after they passed, and people used to like pose their loved ones like sitting in a chair or in a car or whatever, and they would take that picture of them like doing. And in Japan, I think you can actually I think it's Japan. They like taxidermy, yet again, getting back to one of our previous episodes, humans.
Well, they do this with stillborns
Yes.
as well, or children that die shortly after birth. It's called cold cot.
Yeah, they keep
Cold
them.
cot?
Yeah, they keep them.
So that the mother can be with a baby for as long as she needs. I've seen it like all the way up to 2 weeks, and they can take them home, and they can take them out in the stroller and all this stuff. But back to the dog. Very cool. I think that probably saves so many people, like mothers and fathers both, like so much depression and so much just to be able to process that grief. It's the same thing with dogs. I have to hold them as they die. I have to know that they are dead. I have to feel that they are dead. I have to hold them for half an hour, at least an hour after they're dead. And my vet she loves me. I mean, obviously, why wouldn't you? But she's like, I'm just going to step out. I'll be in the car whenever you're ready. You know, I'll come back in and whatever. She'll give me as much time as I need. And I just sit there and I hold them. I play my little song, you know, and I take my pictures. I take a piece of their fur. So I mentally process that this dog is dead. Otherwise, I might lose my grip, which is like a daily occurrence.
And a lot of this, what we're talking about, is for you too, right? We want to give that gift to our dogs, but also you have to be able to be kind to yourself and let them go in a way that you can like process appropriately, you know?
I always play do you remember the movie Dumbo?
Yeah.
And do you remember when Dumbo goes to the trailer that his mom is locked up in?
Yeah.
And it's the baby mine.
Yeah.
Baby mine, don't you cry.
Yeah.
I have to, oh my God, I just lose it. I'm going to lose it right now. I just love that song. But I always play that song. And I hold them and I rock them.
Yeah.
I mean, say my goodbyes, and I love them and how good boys they are.
Very much in the difference in way that Holly and I handle life. I do need to be there, and I do need to hold my dog, but I also, once it's done, I gotta go.
Yeah. Which is fine too.
Yeah, but I was with.
But
them.
you would never not.
No,
you would
I would never walk away before. No, but
No.
Yeah, the worst I ever experienced is when Sloth died, and it was awful, and she just walked up on my bed and laid down and died, and it was out of nowhere, and it was awful, and I still haven't quite figured that out because I didn't get to be a part of like thinking about that process. So when you get to be a part of that process, you've gotten them to the finish line. That's really a gift for both of you.
Yeah.
So some things that can happen, like when you're really not sure of whether or not they're ready to go. You're going to notice that weight loss, the loss of muscle tone, the quality of life. Just think about like the life that you've had with them up until when you're starting to question this. If you're starting to question it, it's probably close to time. If you've sought out advice from your vet and there's no more measures that can really be done, there's another trigger for you.
And it's okay to talk to your vet and tell them, like, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, I need you to lie to me at a 2. You know what I mean? Like, a 2 being like, lie to me so I feel better right now. And then kind of work your way through that. And when you're at, a 7, 8, 9, be real with me.
Yeah.
Tell me what needs to happen right now. And just have that open line of communication. But when you start, we've talked about this before too. You and I have seen a lot of dogs. I mean, we've seen a lot of dogs. We were talking about it with the boxer.
Yeah.
With training and whatnot.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of dogs die.
Yeah.
Normal, air quote, people are going to see a handful of dogs die.
Yeah.
And so hopefully these aren't signs that most people are going to always pick up on, because there might be 10, 15, 20 years between one dog to the next.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, our foster Morgan reached out when she had a foster dog that just was not getting better. And she kept saying, I think it might be time. And so I said, okay, let's make the appointment. I trust you. We got there and the dog was really sweet, and seemed, cuddly and nice, but obviously a little bit out of it. But I hadn't been with the dog as long as she had. And so she took the dog back. The vet took the dog back to the back room to get the catheter in so that they could put in the medicine. And she brought her back, and we let her go, or him, I think it was a him, let him go. And at the end she said, when I was listening to his lungs and his heart, and when we were putting in the catheter and I was checking vitals, I could hear a rattle.
The death rattle.
And she said, based on everything you told me, everything that I saw, even though this is the first time I saw the dog personally, you made the right choice. He was headed in that direction and he was not having a good quality of life.
Right.
And in that moment, I really wasn't sure if we were making the right choice or not, because I hadn't really spent enough time with this dog. It wasn't my own dog, and so it was an interesting experience. And, I walked out and the vet techs were like, oh, we're so sorry. And I was like, that's the first time I met that dog when it died, but I wanted to be there for it, So, I mean, while it was sad and I was sad, I wasn't, it wasn't the same as my own dog. But anyway, that was interesting for me to hear from the vet, like some of the things that she noticed even during that appointment that allowed her to say, yeah, you're doing the right thing. So I always ask the question of the vet, which is kind of a hard place to put them in, but I do like the question. Like, if this was your dog, what would you do? Like when our dog got...
Well, they don't have any problem telling you the truth when it's something that they can fix. So to me, it's like, no, I don't need... Go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know.
I digress.
True. But I was asked, like, if it was your dog, what would you do? And like when Jasper got cancer, I said, like, she's like, well, we could do chemo. And I said, he's a 10-year-old dog. Like, no. I mean, I'm not putting him through that. Like, that's worse.
Yeah.
And so there are sometimes those choices that you have to make. Like, am I going to try and lengthen life by a couple of months by putting them through a lot of pain?
We just had this conversation with Courtney.
Yeah.
Courtney, one of our very special volunteers, she's experienced an irrational amount of
like all of
death
her dogs have just like
in the
tapped
past
out.
year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's getting a little out of hand, honestly.
Yeah.
I told her that. But anyway, she has a dog that has cancer, and I said, Courtney, I've said it before, I'll say it again, and it applies to dogs and people just the same. There are things worse than dying. That's it. There are things worse than dying. In my opinion, chemo is one of them. Mm-hmm. It's just not something
especially
I'm interested in.
Yeah, me neither. Especially in advanced stages with a dog, no. It would not be on the table for me. And I think most people it wouldn't, but sometimes we try to fight
and it's
for our
not
own
a matter.
emotions.
It's not about money.
No, she's got insurance
She's got
that'll
pet
pay
insurance.
for it.
It's not about that. No.
It's about making the call that is most humane for your best friend.
Yeah.
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 So, some other things that we see come up with euthanasia that are not as common. Dogs obviously getting older and all of these other things, you'll kind of notice a decline. But like if they get hit by a car and they've got internal bleeding and several broken bones, and they're going to have to go through a lot of suffering and they might not make it. Like, do you make that call before you spend thousands and thousands of dollars?
Yeah. That's another parameter that I think is important to set for yourself ahead of time, so that you know in your head that you're making a logical decision.
Yes.
And then when it happens, you're not bound by an emotional decision.
Right.
So if all of your dogs are happy, healthy, and everything's fine, and you said, okay, in reality, if my dog ever gets in an emergency situation, I am willing to spend up to X number of dollars to save this dog's life. That's what I can afford.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what my pet insurance can cover, or whatever, what have you, if you have pet insurance. And so that way, when you're in ISU Vet Med or Blue Pearl or IVSC, you've already talked yourself through that.
You've got a rule.
And then you don't have the guilt of saying, well, $10,000 would have saved her. It's like, okay, well.
You don't have $10,000 to save her.
Maybe you do, and that's great.
Yeah.
And you should do that.
Yeah.
If that's what you're willing to spend, fine. But if that's not it, then that's not it.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And the other thing that we get calls a lot about are people that are dealing with behavior or aggression issues in dogs. And it gets to be a point that is so bad that it may be neurological, it may be a mental issue, something that's beyond training and beyond medicating. Having to euthanize a dog for a behavioral reason, to me, is the toughest possible decision to make, because I always think that I can fix it. And being able to wave the flag and say, I can't fix it and I have to make that call is really, really tough. We had a dog that was adopted out, and the owners, and we didn't know that she had these behavioral issues when we adopted her out, but the owners literally did. I mean, I talked to them multiple times. I gave them multiple resources. Mm-hmm. They took them all. They spent thousands of dollars on training, thousands of dollars on medicine, and the dog still was unpredictable, violent, aggressive for no reason, and they did have to make the call to let her go, which kills me. If you have done everything possible and your vet agrees with you that you've done everything possible, that is a potential reason that you do have to make that call.
But there's reasons that happens that is sometimes it's just happen. I mean, it's just like with humans. Like sometimes there are neurological issues that it's nobody's fault. Nothing. Right. It's just a genetic abnormality. Mm-hmm. Inbreeding,
which I believe was the case with
this
dog. It was
can do that.
A French bulldog mix that was like double recessive, mute, dilute coat. I think it was terrible breeding.
Just terrible breeding.
Yeah.
Inline breeding. Crossing things that shouldn't be crossed, which can happen, in stray situations, piss poor breeding situations, shelter situations. It's not anybody to blame. I'm saying when you hit a euthanasia point for behavioral euthanasia, it's because there's nobody to blame. Yes. Like if a dog has behavioral issues and you're not willing to train it or work with it or try possible medication, that's. Well, and most vets won't do that anyway.
We get those threats all the time. Of people saying like, "Oh, if I don't find a home for my dog, I'm going to have to euthanize it." And like, well, good luck, because there's nothing wrong with that dog, so you're not going to be able to euthanize it, Yeah. And if they do, and if a vet does that, and I've heard that some vets have a rule that says if somebody walks in and says they want to euthanize their dog, they have to do it because that's the rule. But most vets that we know, and any vets that we work with
won't do that.
Won't do that, and they'll call us or they'll call other rescues, and they'll say, "Hey, there's this dog here, and I can get the owner to sign it over to us, but can you help?"
And we've had that. I had a Chihuahua. The vet that the owner brought it in to surrender it. There was a whole ass story with it. There was a new baby involved. It was a blah 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 story. You've heard it. And the vet wouldn't euthanize. She asked if I would take it and try. She had noted that there were aggressive
Yeah.
behaviors. And I took her home, and we tried, and we tried, and we tried, and we tried. And she had, latched on to a specific person, and I wasn't it.
Yeah.
And there was there was nothing that was going to change that behavior.
Yeah.
There was no training. There was we had her on trazodone and gabapentin to chill her out.
Yeah.
We worked with her, the treats, the whole thing. And there was just nothing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't her fault.
Yeah.
It wasn't my fault. And
No.
it wasn't the vet's fault.
No. But good for the vet for saying, like, hey,
We
could
tried.
you try?
We tried.
Yeah. It happens.
And just as a reminder, there are perfectly happy, healthy dogs euthanized every single day in shelters.
Yes.
So
yeah, it's
if you could not contribute to that, that'd be
that'd
great.
be great. But we do, and sometimes we get calls from vets as well who have been asked to euthanize a dog because the owner is tired of dealing with their medical issues, but it's not a death sentence medical issue such as allergies. We've taken in a few dogs like that, completely healed, living great lives afterwards because we've been able to give a little bit more monetary backing behind their medical needs. That, to me, choosing to take your dog and be like, I want to euthanize it because it's got allergies and I can't afford the Apoquil anymore, that's pretty questionable.
Yeah, that's...
So, typically most rescues have funds to...
We're flirting with judgment zone there.
We are. So, I've taken a few dogs from that situation and walked away with it. So
then, as rescuers, you get into this conundrum where it's like, okay, do you help them out and financially and get the things that they need, or do you just
if they're
say,
to
you
the
know what,
point
I
where
think
they're walking in
this
asking
not,
them to euthanize the dog, I think
Yeah.
it's at the point where we don't get to say, I'm going to help
Probably
you anymore.
just go ahead and
We'll
get
take the
that dog out of there
Yeah, we'll take the
and
dog.
find it a home that will do it.
Yeah, for sure. So,
Yeah.
anyway, this has been a slightly morbid talk by Kara and Holly to round out your week.
Fun ramblings.
But I do think that this is probably one of the most commonly asked questions that we get. Is it time to let them go? And how do I know? And I'm thinking about this. And can you help me? And can you walk me through it? And really, if it's a dog that you love and you've given it your all, whether it be health-wise, behavior-wise, whatever, and you truly know that you've done all you can do and it's the best interest for their quality of life to give them this final gift of letting them go peacefully and gracefully, then you'll know when the time is right.
Yeah. And then I also always say the best way to honor a dog is to save another one.
Yep.
And some people,
Oh,
I've
all the
heard
time
it,
we hear this
like,
over and over.
I could never own a dog again. It hurt too much, blah, blah, blah.
That's absolute bull.
I don't like it.
No.
I ain't here for it. It's just...
Or I hear people say, like, they'll be 60 years old, their dog passes away. Well, I can't get another dog, I'm too old. How about you get another dog that's too old?
Right.
Get a dog that's 8-10 years old and give it a freaking awesome last 5-6 years of its life.
That's my favorite age anyway.
I freaking love a 10-year-old dog. It's the best age of dog.
They're settled. They're cool. They're chill. They're just writing it out, man.
Yeah, they just want to snuggle and have a good life.
Same.
Yeah, right on, buddy.
So, get another dog.
Yeah.
And then get another dog. And then get another dog.
For that dog.
One more dog.
That final dog will be a foster dog, and
There's
then you'll find that dog a home.
More room for one more dog.
There's always room.
You'll figure it out.
You will.
Oh my dog.
What I mean when I see, what I see, what I feel, when I dream, when I be, I'm a freak, what up? Oh, what up? Everybody look at me when I'm free, when I feel, what I see, when I do it, I'm a freak, what up? Oh, what up? Say what we got, it's hot to spot, give up the drop, see what we got, do what, do what? We got to go, the body flow, too hot to show, the front row, we won't stop.